Welcome to the Low Demand Parenting Podcast, where we drop the pressure, find the joy, and thrive, even when it feels like life is stuck on level 12 hard. I'm Amanda Diekman, author, autistic adult, and mom of 3. I'm not here as an expert, but a fellow traveler. Together, we're learning how to live more gently, authentically, and vibrantly in this wild parenting life.
Hi, guys. I'm so excited to be with you on the podcast this week, and I have a great guest. He's a therapist who specializes in working with young video gamers and gives us such a helpful framework for understanding the ways that video games are actually helpful for a lot of our kids' brains, why they love them so much, and we get into the pitfalls and the challenges. It's all here, and it's a really good one. Before I talk to Andrew, I shared last week that this fall has a lot of awesome stuff coming up in Low Demand Land, and it's time. The Low Demand course is live and ready for you to sign up. We start in about a week, so this is a fabulous time to jump in. I'll tell you that this particular container is unique in that it's not about me telling you what to do in your parenting journey. I couldn't possibly know all of the complexities and the values and the challenges that you are facing that I've never faced. And if I tried to tell you what to do, I'd get it wrong and it wouldn't work. So instead, this is a parenting course about how to make these kinds of decisions. I'm going to teach you the way to think, the questions to ask, the instincts to hone, the way to collaborate with your kid, and to get all of that really juicy curiosity and information that is unique to your family so that you can know what demands to drop and which ones to hold. What expectations are serving your family and helping your flow, and which ones are creating chaos and swirl and struggle. And the only person who's going to know those answers is you. But you don't have to do it alone. This is both about learning in live calls with me and about community. It's 8 weeks, but you actually have a full year to digest the information after our live calls together. So don't be overwhelmed. Don't be intimidated. I don't know if anybody needs a parenting course right now in late stage capitalism with all that's happening and just the constant hellscape all around us. I don't know. But I'm here and I'm passionate about this. And if this is what you need, I really want to help. So in the show notes, you'll find all the details and the live course, call times, and everything you need to know. It is priced at $200 a month for 3 months. Or you can apply for a scholarship. We have both 50% off and full pay what you can scholarships available because it really matters to me that if you need this, you will be there. Now it is time to talk video gaming with Andrew.
Welcome to the podcast. I'm so glad you're here.
Thank you for having me.
It's really fun to talk to somebody who really respects video gaming as a potent area for conversation. I love that we're going to have a whole podcast about video gaming. That is something I'm usually the token guest positively talking about screens. So it's super great to meet around that. You've written a book called Parenting a Gamer, and we're going to talk all about how we can best support our young gamers because there are so many in this community and there's so much potential there for really joining them in their special interests as opposed to making it our enemy.
Oh, I totally agree. I play a lot of video games. I love thinking about them and talking about them. I think they're wonderful. You know, they can cause some problems and some fights, but they're generally great things for people to do. I think something like 90% of teenagers play them. They're part of reality. We should celebrate that.
Yes. And interestingly, and I know some of my listeners already know this, I'm not actually a gamer myself. I grew up with a gamer older brother, and although I had ample opportunities to play with him, what I enjoyed was sitting and watching him play games and
Hmm.
talking to him while he played. And it was like a lot of people like watching a sport, but not playing that sport. I feel like I'm a
Right.
fan of video games and not a gamer myself. And who knew that that would prepare me so well for my parenting journey of spending so many countless hours watching and talking and connecting around video games without being a player myself. So
Right.
I'd love to hear from you a little bit. I mean, not only are you a gamer yourself, but you're a therapist. You've worked with loads of kids around
Hmm.
understanding the inner workings of their brains through games. So tell
Yeah.
us a little bit about why neurodivergent kids, both autistic kids, ADHDers, other forms of neurodivergence, like why do they love games so much?
Hmm. I think there's two main reasons for this in my experience. The first is that life, especially for autistic kids, is really unpredictable. If you're someone who has trouble with facial expressions and tone of voice, it's hard to know if someone is lying to you. You're being expected to navigate a school system and a world that isn't built for you, that you have to fit into all of these rules that don't make sense to you. And it's stressful and it's challenging. And video games are just not that. They're fair, they're predictable, there are rules that everyone has to follow. And if
Mm-hmm.
you practice and practice and practice and you do really well, you will succeed. You can win if you just follow the rules and you understand them and you practice. That's not guaranteed anywhere else in your life. You can work really, really hard at school, and because either the class isn't meant for you or the school isn't meant for you, there's no guarantee of success. There's no guarantee that you'll ever get a job for anyone, even if you
Mm-hmm.
do everything right. But in a video game, that all goes away. And so it can be really appealing to kids, especially where it's fair. Everyone knows it. Everyone is playing the same game. The playing field is level. That's just a really unique and wonderful experience.
Mm-hmm.
The other is that it's social in a way that is safe and,
Mm-hmm.
again, fair. And so, what I hear for a lot of autistic kids, especially, is that it's really challenging to make friends at school. They are overloaded with, I have to know how much eye contact to make, and I have to know whether they're interested in what I'm saying, and I have to know the social dynamics, and I have to know whether this person is actually a bully and they're just trying to be my friend because they think it's funny, and I have to know this and this and this and this, and they just get overwhelmed and sometimes just give up.
Mm-hmm.
And so, video games can also be a way to reduce most of those barriers. If you're really, really into League of Legends, for example, and all you want to do is talk about League of Legends, it's your special interest, you think about this all the time, you know who will want to talk about that? People who are also playing League of Legends. And
Mm-hmm.
you don't have to worry about responding right away. If it's a text chat, you can think about your response, you can pause, take 5 minutes, and then respond with a thoughtful answer. You can't do that in real life. People will be like, well, why did they freeze up? And then if they don't understand you as a person, we'll judge you for that, especially if it's a new interaction. And so it's just a safer, more fair world than ours is in this
Mm-hmm.
3D space.
Mm-hmm. In part, it's people point to that aspect of video games and often ask from a negative angle like, why is my
Hmm.
kid so into this? Why won't they just go ride their bike, or why don't they want to
Hmm.
do an art project, or join a
Hmm.
club in person? Why the game? And it kind of makes it seem as though there's something bad about the game that our kid is
Hmm.
so into it. And so then the question becomes, well, are they addicted, or why won't they get off? I love that you're starting us with like, let's anchor the conversation and why do they love it so much?
Right.
It really changes the question.
Hmm.
So then how do you respond when people are wanting to vilify the game
Hmm.
and its role in their life, when they're like, what's wrong with a good family bike ride? Why does it always have to be Minecraft? How do
Hmm.
you help coach families through that?
Right. The first thing that I always recommend is more understanding. I'll give you an example from my own life. When I was a kid, I was playing Pokemon, and there's a thing in the game called a trainer battle. And so you're fighting an opponent, you're sending your Pokemon to fight on your behalf, and it's fun, but you can't stop in the middle of it, or you could lose all your progress. If you haven't saved in a while, then you might lose a half an hour of progress if your parents say turn the game off. And so for me, as a little 8-year-old, I was really having trouble explaining to them, no, I need 3 more minutes. I need to finish this thing, and then I will happily go turn a game off and go help you out. And so if my parents had understood that, if I had been able to explain that better, or if they had played alongside me, well, I hope we can get to that part later, then I think they would have just said, oh, okay, well, finish that and then come help. And it would have reduced the number of arguments because they had understood what was the specific barrier to what I was experiencing. And so some of the most common ones that I see is, first off, transitions are already hard
Mm-hmm.
for most kids, especially neurodivergent ones. And so there's a sort of what I call a 1 more minute trap that you can fall into in some of these games where I'm in the middle of this quest and I can see the goal. I can see that I'm almost there, and my parent tells me to stop. Or I'm trying to get myself to go to sleep. All right, I'm going to just go there and then I'll turn the game off. The problem is that once I'm there, there's another goalpost that I'm all right. Well, I'll take 2 more minutes and I'll go to that one, and then but when I'm there, there's 3 more minutes I can do that, and then hours can pass for me as an adult, and so there's that 1 more minute trap that compounds the transitions being difficult. Some of the games have things called rounds or raids or battles. And so if you know that your kid's game takes 30 minutes to finish, you might consider if you need your kid to go to bed at 9 o'clock, you can say turn the game off at 9 o'clock, but there's a really high chance that at 9 o'clock they'll be in the middle of a round and they're going to want to finish it, especially if they're being social and they're talking to their friends. They're not going to be the one kid that goes to bed early at a sleepover and turns the game off. If you say, okay, you need to not start a new round after 8:30, you get the same results where the games turn off
Yes.
at 9 o'clock because that's bedtime, but without the arguing because they know, all right, this is how I need to moderate my own use. I need to not start a new one at 8:30 for the rest of my life because that's the way that the game really works. I know that I'm not going to be able to stop in the middle of a round, but I can do that.
Mm-hmm.
And the third category that I think is most common is the social pressure, where if you and your friends are playing and playing and playing and you're having a great time, and you say, "All right, I need to go do my homework," and they say, "No, wait, don't. We're in the middle of a thing. You need to keep playing." And what teenager is going to choose homework over their friends? Their friends begging them to do this, or worried that their friends are going to leave them because they stopped to do the responsible thing, which is their homework, over this other responsible thing, which is to spend time with their friends.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so again, I think that's something that parents really need to understand deeply to figure out how their kid can be helped and responded to in that way. Maybe
Mm-hmm.
maybe that's I know that you're in the middle of a round, but I really need you to do this because grandma's coming over.
Mm-hmm. Totally. Well, I have two thoughts about that. One is, as a parent, if you're coming into their world, like pause,
Hmm.
notice what they're doing, even ask a question. Hey, where are you at? What's going on in your game? Get some
Hmm.
information first. And that
Right.
does a lot. And the second is just imagine if it were a real world scenario. Like imagine that your kid was in the middle of a really fierce game of hide and seek. And it
Hmm.
was like finally their round to be the seeker, and they'd been waiting and waiting. And then you were like, I don't care. You got to come inside right now. Maybe some parents would do that, but I think a lot would be like, oh, that makes so much sense.
Right.
We got to let this round finish. Or they're doing a mosaic art project and they've got like 10 pieces left.
Hmm.
You
Right. 10
wouldn't
pieces
be
left, and
like,
then the glue's gonna dry and it's not gonna work tomorrow.
exactly, exactly. Great metaphor. So, like translating it into something that does make sense to you.
Hmm.
The other thing I think of is I'm a huge novel reader, and at the end of most good
Hmm.
chapters in a novel,
Yeah.
they get you and they're like, just turn
Hmm.
that page, read the next chapter, you know? And I find it so hard to stop.
Hmm.
And I have to have all these external supports in place so that I will stop and go to bed. And that's the
Right.
way that our kids feel. And does that make a
Hmm.
novel addictive? No, it's a great novel. That's how it's
Hmm.
meant. Like, that is it being it's at its best. And
Hmm.
that helps me again to remember that like this feeling is the one that they feel when they're in Mario Odyssey and they just completed a challenge and they're like,
Hmm.
oh, the next one is right there. I want to do
Hmm.
it.
Right.
And I love the idea of parents really understanding the games as well, not just translating into their own world, but entering into the world of a gamer. Again, even if you don't play them, watching or learning enough that you can really intuitively understand the logic of the game that your kid is playing. And for me, I really believe that the thing that keeps our kids safe online is our relationship to them,
Hmm.
and everything else is secondary in
Yeah.
terms of safety. That the
Hmm.
safest thing that exists is their shame-free relationship to you. And every other router safety and browser safety and
Hmm.
game, like every one of those pales in comparison to you on their team. Tell me a little bit about how you view safety, parental control, what works well and what doesn't work as well as we want it to when it comes
Hmm.
to controls and safety.
Yeah. The most important one for me is around who can talk to your kid in these games. Because there are a lot of bad actors online. Some games are worse than others, but in most games, if you have public chat on where anybody can talk, there's a lot of toxicity and negativity and really scary people out there. And so the one parental control that I would recommend to anybody is to just make sure you go in your kids' games and turn off public chat. Fortnite, for example, they've got a pretty robust system where there's a sort of slider bar where you can set it to nobody can talk to me, only my friends can talk to me, only my friends and the people who are currently on my team can talk to me, or everybody can talk to me.
Mm-hmm.
And I've never had a good experience when everybody can talk to me. It's a lot of racial slurs, it's derogatory statements, it's scary things that I've heard on those. Whenever I'm starting a new online multiplayer game, I just turn that off. I don't care what other people are saying. I don't want to hear it. And I've never heard a kid who really enjoyed that either. So if they want to talk to their friends, awesome. If they want to talk to their friends and current teammates, that's a conversation I think everybody should just be off. The other time that I would recommend implementing some sort of parental controls is to supplement a collaborative agreement with you and your kid. Where if you and your kids have decided, all right, here are the rules that we agree as a family to follow. We agree that because my grades are low, then I'll only play for an hour a day, so I still get that social time, but then I have this rest of the night to do homework, or whatever your agreement is. Then if you want to add parental controls to supplement this plan that you have already all agreed on, then that also makes some sense just to lighten your load as a parent so that it's not you having to enforce it. The game just will turn off after an hour and everyone knows that that's the plan. That can also be a helpful way to use parental controls.
Yeah, and just to double underline that, sometimes for PDAers, we have a lot of kids here for whom being told what to do is just inherently a threat to their
Hmm.
nervous system. And so, a great tool for PDAers is to externalize it.
Hmm.
So, like the rule becomes a built in part of the system as opposed to being you telling them, hey, you have
Hmm.
to stop now. Like, oh,
Right.
shoot, it turned off. Then you can
Hmm.
be on the same team, kind of mad about that. Maybe even
Right.
this is a good opportunity to ask you about that collaboration process. Like,
Hmm.
let's say day after day, the kid is mad when it goes off at an hour. How do you do collaboration with kids who are struggling with whatever your expectation is?
There's a quote that I go back to all the time by Ross Greene, the psychologist, who says, kids do well if they can. And so basically, if they're not doing well at something, there's a reason for it. There's something that's stopping them from being able to access that skill or that they're part of their brain. I always recommend starting with an observation and then remaining curious. For example, I've noticed you spending a lot more time gaming recently. What changed? What's happening for you right now? And maybe they're in burnout. Maybe they're so angry at school that they can't even think about homework. Maybe they're being bullied. Maybe the game is just really fun. But each one of those requires a different response from you as a parent and as someone who's there to support your kid. And so if your kid says, I don't know, I just feel so sad after school every day and I can't handle everything, that's probably burnout. And the response needs to be different than the kids are being really mean to me at school and I don't know how to handle it, so I'm just de-stressing from that.
Yeah.
You as a parent can handle both of those situations, but you need to know which one it is. And or your teacher called and said you haven't turned in any assignments this week. What's going on? And then really trying to remain as open and curious as you possibly can to then help make a plan together with your kid rather than imposing limits and assuming that that will solve the problem.
Yeah. And when our kids are sending us that signal that the game is doing something for them, that a posture I love to assume is asking, what need is this game meeting?
Hmm.
Like sometimes parents of kids in burnout, for your example, they're watching YouTube 12 hours a day. How do we change this? There's something
Hmm.
wrong. And obviously there's something wrong because they're in
Right.
burnout, but I would much more rather have them focus on what is so dysregulating that they need this amount of
Hmm.
regulation
Right. Rather than
rather
taking away the
than
tool.
exactly. That's a great way of putting it. And tell me about games and screens and burnout in your experience as a therapist.
Yeah. So it's certainly the most visible sign of burnout, I think, at first, for at least for a lot of my clients, where suddenly they're in the room gaming all the time. And this didn't used to happen. This didn't happen 2 weeks ago. What shifted? And it's often because they're burned out from school, or they're
Hmm.
burned out from social expectations, or just burned out from everything because there's too much being asked of them right now, and they needed time to recover. And so for a lot of them, that's the easiest, safest way to recover that doesn't require much more brain power. It doesn't require a lot of extra thought and effort. It's just you can turn it on and go into this flow state where everything is natural and easy, and you can just let your brain rest. And that's a rare thing for a lot of people, that there's a place and a time where you can just rest and not have to try to focus on something. It sort of does the focusing for you.
Oh, I love that. Yeah, that flow state, that safe space. And as we where we started with a lot of our autistic kids, it's a space that makes sense. It's almost like it's built for their brain as opposed to
Hmm.
against their brain.
Right.
So it's an intuitive space for them as well,
Hmm.
which as an autistic person, I so rarely feel like
Hmm.
life just intuitively makes sense. I'm just always
Hmm.
fighting. And it's so
Right.
nice to be in a world even
Yeah.
temporarily. I don't love devil's advocate. I get a lot of this when I'm on other people's
Hmm.
podcasts. So I don't want to do that posture, but more like even within a worldview that's like friendly and supportive to our kids' gaming, what are things that you would want parents to be on the lookout for as signs that maybe this is something that needs more support? How can you
Hmm.
tell from the outside if the gaming is not good for a kid or particular games that aren't good for particular kids? What does that look like?
The two things that I look for most are if gaming doesn't feel restful and the level of agitation actually goes up, then there might be something going on. Maybe this is a kid who this isn't a regulatory tool, even if they think it is. Maybe they need less. Just knowing this specific kid, maybe this is too energetic and they either need to change the games that they're playing so they're not so invested and the losing doesn't feel so hard. Or this is just a kid who will get too energized by anything on screens for a while. Okay, let's wait for his brain to catch up and encourage him to find other analog pursuits for a little bit. And the biggest red flag for me is if the kid is saying, "Man, I know that I'm playing too many games, but I can't help it."
Mm-hmm.
That the kid has tried and failed to stop. That leads toward a sign of addiction. And then is this just burnout or is this something else? But that could be a really big red flag of I also don't know why I can't stop, but I can't.
Yeah, absolutely. We've experienced that a little bit in the coming out of burnout phase,
Hmm.
where that has been the only safe space for so long that they
Hmm.
can't really remember how to navigate other spaces.
Yeah.
And that has been a place where, as the parent, the kid is usually expressing that to me in some way.
Hmm.
Like, all I'm doing is playing Minecraft by myself in my room, and I'm lonely and I'm not enjoying it anymore.
Right.
And then the question isn't, okay, how do I get you off of Minecraft? I mean, maybe it is. But for this particular kid, it was, okay, let's make some friends in real life who also like to
Hmm.
play Minecraft.
Yeah. Right. I'm a big fan of Dungeons and Dragons clubs at school or in the community. So let's find some like-minded people who share your interests and you can go share a physical space with them and just geek out and be yourself with people who are like you.
Thank you for mentioning that. I think that parents don't really appreciate how much those tabletop role play games are
Hmm.
the real life version of video games. They are the
Hmm.
perfect transfer. So if your kid is like, I
Yeah.
need to buy Magic the Gathering cards, and you're like, that's expensive. Why would we get into this?
Those are
Like,
expensive.
say yes if you can, right, to find a way.
Mhm.
Maybe buy some used cards or whatever.
Hmm.
But this is their way of trying to find IRL friends who share
Yeah.
their interests.
Hmm. Right. One thing I recommend to younger kids if they're trying to figure out, I don't know how to make friends at school, I don't know who to make friends, and I know that they're a Minecraft player, I say look for the kids with the Minecraft backpacks. Look for the kids who are wearing a t-shirt every day to school that says Minecraft on it in big letters. That's probably somebody who wants to talk about Minecraft. That's a great in.
Yes. And another great reason to get your kid a Minecraft shirt.
Yeah,
'Cause
right.
maybe another kid will come up to
Just to
them.
telegraph their interests.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, let's talk a little bit about playing with our kids,
Mhm.
both parents playing with kids, and also we have a lot of providers who listen. So, therapists playing games
Yeah.
with kids. I'm a big believer in therapists doing virtual therapy in games as a way to
Hmm.
meet kids who are in burnout where they are.
Yeah.
I
Hmm.
was just
I do a
talking
lot
to
of
a
that.
yeah, I was just talking to a parent about getting her kid an autism assessment. And she was like, I don't know how we're going to even be able to get him in the car. We've built so much trust. I don't want to
Hmm.
force him to do this thing. And I was like, let's find an assessor who uses video games in
Hmm.
the assessment. And I don't know if that exists, but it should. So tell
Right.
me a little bit about how you use it in your practice and how you coach parents to join kids where they're at.
Hmm. Yeah. So I talk about this a lot in my book, where I think that video games can be used first because they're fun. I think you as the parent will have more fun than you realize. And even if you don't, it's not really the point. Your point is to be in a space where the kid feels safe and feels respected and seen for their interests. I mentioned this also in the book, where if I had a kid who was really into ballet, I don't know anything about ballet. I'm not interested in ballet. But it's my responsibility as the parent to figure out, all right, well, if this is where my kid is at, I need to study, I need to learn, I need to go to every ballet recital, I need to look at YouTube videos so that I can have the conversation using their language.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the same thing with video games, where if this is all your kid is doing, I don't care what your kid is doing, you need to be there with them to celebrate their interests and find the good in that thing. And so it's fun, it's good quality time together. It respects their interests rather than insisting that, well, I'm into soccer, my kids should be into soccer too. That's just not how kids work. I mean, you're the adult, it's your responsibility to join them. It's also a good way to assess people's interests. You know, if they really like the storytelling in games, maybe you've got a writer on your hands. Maybe you've got someone who would like a workshop or would like a notebook and some encouragement. Or if they really like the competition, maybe they would join a sports team. If they like the game design aspect and they like seeing how levels are put together to make a puzzle that's satisfying, there are kits online that will help you make your own games, your own video games, and let them explore. You know, maybe they like the character design and they really like the way that this character's clothing represents their skill set. And even maybe you've got a little fashion designer or an artist and you can encourage that skill as well. So you can use the skills that they like in the games to encourage real life skills that will help them for the rest of their lives as well. And you can only do that if you know
Absolutely.
what those interests are. And the fastest, most efficient way to do that is to just sit next to them and try and let them beat you at their favorite game.
Yes. Oh, 2 stars to that. Yes, yes, yes. I mean, especially if you don't know that much yet, a lot of adults I see want to ask a bunch of questions like, tell me exactly how does Fortnite work? Or what is it about Roblox? And kids
Hmm.
don't, at least my kids, really don't love explaining their games very much. Some do.
Hmm.
And that's great. If you've got a kid that likes to explain their game, like sit back
Hmm.
and get ready
Yep.
for a 30-minute lesson. My kids like to show. And
Hmm.
so they would so much rather say, I don't want to tell you how it works. Just come watch
Yeah.
and say less than you think and
Hmm.
just take it in and learn by listening.
Right.
I also want to encourage parents to celebrate your kids' victories in game.
Hmm.
It's been a really good way for me to build genuine connection with them is like I care that you and your friends beat the Ender Dragon. I will
Hmm.
jump up and down with you. Or you got to 5 quintillion lemons in your clicker simulator
Hmm.
in Roblox or whatever it is. Like it
Right.
doesn't have to like inherently matter, but it matters to you. And
Hmm.
so I care about that with you. And I
Yeah.
just know if I exuded disdain
Hmm.
on some level, like, oh, great. Did you find, does that mean you're going to be done now? Like if
Hmm.
that was my attitude to their celebrations, they'd tell me less and less, trust
Right.
me less and less, want me
Hmm.
around less and less. Because who wants people around who don't really care about what you care about? Like you said, if
Hmm.
your attitude toward ballet was like, oh, are the classes over now? It's been so expensive. Like,
Hmm.
oh,
Right. Yeah. And then
what
again, I,
a
I really like your
lesson.
idea of bringing it into trying to find the analog for your world. What would this be like? What would the equivalent of this be like for me? And what would that feel like if my parent had said something like that about something that I really cared about?
Yeah, right. Exactly. Thank
Yeah.
you for your contribution, for all the kids that you've made feel safe and seen by not forgetting what it felt like to be 8-year-old you in the middle of a trainer
Yeah.
battle.
Thank you so much for your time.
I appreciate it. If this podcast is speaking to your soul, you can subscribe through wherever you get your own podcasts. Even better, if you feel the nudge, head on over to Apple Podcasts in particular and leave us a review. It's such a helpful way for new people to also get to experience what this podcast wants to bring into their lives. I'm Amanda. Remember, it takes great strength to let things go. I'll see you next week.